So I checked my screen time one day and saw that I've been on my phone for 41 and a half hours that week. 41 and a half. That's basically a full-time job. And the crazy thing is, I don't even have social media. So I thought, what in the world am I doing on my phone all day? Like, sure, I read books and watch videos to learn, but do I really need to spend that much time staring at a screen? So I knew something needed to change. And yes, of course, I didn't want to be that mom who was always on her phone and showing my kids that it's normal. I wanted to set a better example. But what really hit me and wanted to make me change was when I said I could never live without my phone. It was my calendar, my notes, everything. When we say that we can't live without something, it starts to become an adult. So it's time to do something drastic. So there you go. My 30-day phone challenge started. Let me tell you how it went. So here's how the challenge worked. At first, I decided to turn my smartphone into a dumb phone with the goal of only using it for texts and calls and some of the things I needed to check for family business, because if I had a separate phone for a family business, then it wouldn't count on my personal screen time, was my thought process. The plan was to use it only during 3 specific 15-minute blocks. First thing in the morning, before the girls woke up, after lunch, during the peace and quiet, and after they went to bed. The rest of the time, my phone was going to be tucked away in a drawer in our bedroom, completely out of sight. But then I started realizing that those quick checks for a family business kept my screen time higher than what I wanted. So I adjusted the rules. No more quick checks on my phone. Those checks were going to be on the laptop, just like as if I worked a regular job. The phone was strictly for quick replies and emergencies. My goal shifted from keeping it under 45 minutes to using my phone as little as humanly possible. And outside of those 3 blocks, back in the drawer it went. Out of sight, out of mind. I found that if my phone was on a kitchen counter, I'd walk by and out of habit, I'd grab my phone to check it. And I don't even have social media to check or my email or anything. So I don't even know why I had that habit. I also knew there were going to be times where I would allow a tiny challenge to tempt me from using my phone. So I set up some systems in place to make sure that I wasn't tempted. I use my Maps app all the time, even when I know how to get somewhere. I like to know the fastest way to get there with the current traffic. For a challenge, I would look up the directions beforehand or go to places I already knew how to get there and deal with the traffic without the app. I also use the alarm clock and timer on my phone to wake up and for cooking and baking every day, all day long. And so for the challenge, I use this tiny clock that we had as an alarm clock and a timer. I also check the calendar app multiple times a day, every day. And so for the challenge, I would print my digital calendar 1 week at a time and write the changes directly on the sheet I printed. I felt ready. And somehow I still encounter, I don't know if I would call it challenges, but just some, let's say, inconvenience. So for the directions, it wasn't too much of an issue. I saw that one time that an appointment miscalculated my time to get there and to park. And so I ended up pulling my map app out to make sure that I was taking the fastest route to be on time for my appointment. For the alarm clock and timer, it was fine, just a little inconvenient. We had this tiny physical clock that we had gotten a little bit ago because we wanted to always make sure we never miss a flight in case our alarms on the phone wouldn't go off in the morning. We like to fly first thing in the morning because that's when everybody is rested. So I realized that I like to use the vibration alarm clock on my phone so I can wake up a little bit more peacefully than being yanked out of my sleep with the beeping sound. And so I stopped using the physical clock for the rest of the challenge. For the timer, do you know how often we use a timer in the kitchen? I end up getting a visual timer that I've been wanting to get for the girls to learn time, and it was much simpler with it. For the printed weekly calendar, it worked great for me, but it was different not to have access to my kids' calendar at my fingertips. And I also like updating things right away in my calendar for my kids to have access to it. And so it was fine, just an adjustment for us. There were also 2 things that we need to adjust to. The first thing was our family business. I am used to listening to messages and audios and videos, everything at 2 times speed. On the laptop, there was an option to do that and to speed it up. So I found listening to people talk in real time, it felt so slow. And the other adjustment was Mikey and I text all day, every day, even if he works from home. And so not having my phone all day meant that I wasn't constantly telling him everything I thought about, but I would get to decide if it was worth it to interrupt his work to share my thoughts that I had. So we started this new habit of having one of our daughters to go get Daddy to let him know that lunch was ready instead of me texting him that, which is not a bad thing at all. I realized that these little inconveniences were so worth it. It forced me to slow down and think intentionally about how I was using my time and the tools accessible for me. By putting these systems in place, I learned that most of the things that I relied on my phone for were not as necessary as I thought. It was a challenge, yes, but also a massive shift in perspective. Despite the adjustment, I started to see incredible blessings unfold as I was letting go of my phone's grip on me. And the challenge gave me some of the most rewarding and eye-opening moments I've had in a long time. First, carrying a notebook everywhere felt surprisingly refreshing. Whenever a thought or an idea would pop into my head, I'd write it down instead of reaching out for my phone. And the crazy thing is, I started to realize that I was coming up with so many more ideas that way. Before that, when I typed my phone on the Notes app, I'd open up my phone and I would see something that grabbed my attention. And by the time that I got to my notes, I'd either forgotten what I was doing or lost the creative flow. With a notebook, there was none of that. It was just me, my thought, and my pen. No distractions. And that shows me how much my phone has been fragmenting my focus. Without it close to me, my mind felt clearer, freer, and less rushed. I wasn't just recording my thoughts, I was actually thinking them through. And the second great benefit from not using my phone is there was a shift in my interactions with our girls. Before, if they interrupted me while I was on my phone, I felt like this irritation bubbling up, and it wasn't intentional, but it was there. This voice in my head going like, do you see I'm in the middle of something here? During the challenge, without my phone constantly in front of me, I had nothing to be busy with. And when it came up to me, I was fully present. It felt amazing. Our home had already a peaceful rhythm to it, and now there was an even deeper calm, almost like an unspoken understanding between all of us. I could listen better, I could respond more thoughtfully, and I could truly enjoy those little moments that make up our days better. And the other thing was prayer journaling. I've been on that habit of prayer journaling for a little over a year now, and this challenge has deepened that practice in ways that I didn't expect. Before, I get distracted by my thoughts, like my to-do list, random ideas, or just wondering how I've been prayer. And that's when I started prayer journaling. But this time, it felt deeper. Like I could really pour my heart out to God with no interruptions and really write everything down. It was just in me and God on that page. And I started seeing how much more intentional and connected my prayer time became. It was almost because I had started writing my thoughts and ideas down that when I would pray or journal, it was deeper. All these breakthrough moments had shown me how much my phone had been quietly taking from me. My focus, my patience, my presence, getting away from my phone, then just give me those things back. It opened up a deeper appreciation for the life that God has blessed me with. It reminded me to slow down, to savor the simple things, and to keep my heart centered on Him. So, what's next? This challenge has completely reshaped the way I view and use my phone. I've realized that it doesn't need to be my constant companion or the answer to every little task. Instead, it can be a tool that I use intentionally and sparingly. I've decided to keep some of the boundaries I set up during the challenge, like leaving my phone tucked away from most of the day. I no longer feel the need to have it by my hand or to even have it nearby. And when I do need it, I plan to use it only during those 3 times that I've decided. And that way, I can still stay connected without allowing it to pull me out. I also want to keep relying on some of the habits that I built during the challenge. Carrying a notebook for thoughts and ideas was such a small change with such a big impact, and it's something I'll stick with. Writing down notes and prayers and to-do lists feels so much more personal and keeps my mind from wandering the way it did before when I used my phone for everything. And so beyond the practical changes, this challenge has left me with a renewed perspective. I don't want to slip back into the habit of mindlessly scrolling or turning to my phone out of boredom. Instead, I want to stay focused on the life right in front of me, my family, my home, and my walk with God. And moving forward, I'm committed to keeping this slow and more intentional pace in all areas of my life. And ultimately, this challenge has taught me that life is richer and fuller and more meaningful when I'm not glued to my phone. By keeping it in its proper place, I'm choosing to live more fully in the moments that matter the most. Cutting my screen time by 93% wasn't easy, but it worked because of 3 key factors. The first one is setting a clearer goal. From the start, I knew what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to keep my screen time below 45 minutes, and knowing that what I was working forward kept me motivated, especially when I faced temptations to slip back into old habits. The second thing is knowing my why. Understanding the deeper purpose behind the challenge was crucial. My husband and kids deserve my full attention, not the distracted version of me scrolling my phone. The people in my home are more important than the people in my phone. And even more importantly, I wanted to honor God by putting Him first, not allowing my phone to become an idol in my life. And realizing how often I turned to my phone for comfort and distraction or entertainment was a wake-up call. By remembering my why, I found the strength to push through, even when it felt inconvenient. Other thing is putting systems in place to succeed. Success didn't happen by luck. It required planning and intentionality. I created a system that supported my goal, like designing times to check my messages and carrying a notebook for ideas and prayers and keeping my phone out of sight. That was a big one. And those systems removed the temptation to pick up my phone mindlessly and made sure that even in moments of weakness, I had tools to stay on track. And I wanted to make sure I was going to follow through on the goal, so I put systems in place to help me. And by completing this challenge, I then just proved to myself that I could live without my phone constantly in my hand. I showed God that my phone is no longer an idol in my life. It's not something that controls me. It's not something that dictates how I spend my time. Instead, I choose to use it intentionally as a tool rather than letting it use me. This journey was about more than self discipline. It was about surrender, letting go of something that had too much power over me and placing my trust back in God. I learned that I'm capable of living simply, being present, and relying on Him instead of turning to my phone for convenience and comfort, like I talked about. And through this process, I took back control of my habits and my focus, and I proved that my phone doesn't define my life or my priorities. I learned to slow down and to be present in a way that I hadn't experienced before. So I challenge you to set your own 30-day phone challenge and crush it. If you want to learn other things that I quit to strive, check the next video in the description.